traders, today I want to show you a new update. We're on version 5 for Trendline Breaker Algo, and let me show you we are on version 5. That's the most current one, and with this version let me just say that there is about 15,000 lines of code between all the indicators, strategies, add-on, and between all the pieces that move together. So it's a very sophisticated add-on and strategy. And let me say that there are some updates to the strategy and to the add-on. And there is an update to we're now able to trade 4 strategies on algo trading. They're a little bit different for algo trading than what's in discretionary. Discretionary, there is no other rules except for what is listed here. Let's say you want to enter volume trade, long or short. You just press this button, and if you want to close be above the previous, then you mark this as your button. But let's try. We can enable, toggle them off and on here, and let's run it and see what it's gonna do. I will try to explain on the charts what it does. I toggled off time filter. Well, actually, let's have it on. And I've selected all 4 strategies, and I'm gonna mute it for now so it doesn't has this weird sounds. So let's just have it on.
Volume, trendline break flag, trendline volume up setup, volume ups, volume, volume, trendline break up set, volume, flagged, volume, trendline break up set, flag ups, flag down set, volume, congest, volume, trend, volume up, volume down set, volume up set, congestion short breakout, volume down setup.
So let's go over this trade. Now you cannot tell which one was from the chart. I will update that in the future. But what you can do is you can open NinjaScript output, and you could say that auto congestion short. That's how you would see which trade was that. So this was the congestion short. So it was this congestion breakout. Okay. So, and the rules are for the congestion is you have a breakout of a congestion, which happens on this bar. It closes below, and there's also volume signal. So it's not just a congestion. It has a double. It needs to have a double signal. So it broke out here and went down there, and yeah. So that's how it was. Let's continue. And if you think about it, like congestions can be it tells you something about the market conditions. It's where price consolidates, it stops and thinks, it tests in the waters which way to go, and oftentimes the breakout of a congestion could be a whipsaw, but if it's doubled with a volume, it's a good signal. Let's continue.
Trendline. Volume up setup. Volume down setup. Flag down setup. Volume down setup. Flag down. Volume up setup. Volume down. Trend. Volume up setup. Trend. Flag. Volume down. Volume. Trendline breakdown setup. Flag down setup. Flag down setup. Congestion. Volume down setup. Flag down setup. Trend. Volume up setup. Flag up. Volume up setup. Congestion. Trendline. Volume up setup. Trendline breakdown setup.
So we've got another trade. Let's look at this trade, what it was. So this was trendline break, short trendline break. And it also requires a double signal. It's not really well seen, but we have break, trendline break coupled with a signal. And that's why we've added this condition. CT stands for compound trade, so it means you will have a trendline break and it needs to have some other signal. And same thing that was for a congestion. It was this CT, it was enabled, so it needed to have both signals on the same signal, which really intensifies the signal. So yeah, and I just wanted to let you know that these signals, they're not taking you. It's not a one bar calculations, or it's not one bar behavior. For example, this volume signal, it's a custom combination of volume signals that was several bars to your left side. So it tells you a lot with these signals, and when you put it all together, it really works out well. So let's try to go on. Let me mute it for now.
Trendline breakdown setup.
Okay, so this trade, let's see what it was. This was short trendline break. So again, this was a short trendline break. So this was one trendline break, and this was second trendline break. And again, you see it has this compound signals. If you look at this volume, see how this is almost at zero, and the volume for next bar was like minus 0.02, so that's like more than 2. So was the difference in the volume was really significant between this and this. And it worked out for a runner. There was a 1-2-1, and the runner was 2-2-1. So let's continue.
Volume down. Flag up. Volume down setup. Volume down setup. Flag down. Congestion long. Volume down setup. Volume down setup. Volume down setup. Trendline breakup setup. Volume ups. Volume down setup. Volume down setup. Trendline breakdown. Volume down setup. Volume down setup.
Okay, so we have one loser. Let's look at this one, what trade it was, just to make sure It's working as expected. So this was no, this was, we need to look the one that logs before submitting a trade. So this was short trend line break. Okay, so this was short trend line break, and you see it hit our stop loss here. But if you are sitting by the computer here, you see how the signal was valid. It's our stop loss was not valid. You see how this, like the whole thing starts from here. It's just congestion in this area. So if you would have been sitting here and watching the trade, you probably wanted to raise the stop loss here, and it would have worked out pretty well. Why? Because the signal is valid. We have trend line break, and we have it's a compound signal. That's what it says. Short trend line break. Okay. So if you would have been here, it would have worked out pretty well. If you would just raise your stop loss. But let's continue. It's probably done for here. Let's just skip to the next day, and let me see if we can have see this flag trading. We didn't have a flag set up here yet, and congestion, we already had congestion. I think I showed that. And volume tipping is another trade that I wanted to show you.
Volume. Trendline breakup setup.
I'm sorry, let me forget to mute it.
Trendline breakdown setup. Volume down. Volume. Trendline. Flat. Volume up setup. Volume down. Volume up setup. Volume up setup. Flag up setup.
Actually, I find, let's check our time filter. It's all 7:30. That's fine. Yeah, I find this volume and congestion, they work. They work before market opens. Okay.
Trendline. Trendline. Volume. Trendline breakup set. Volume up setup. Flag. Volume up. Volume down setup. Volume up setup. Volume down setup. Bearish. Volume up. Trendline. Volume. Trendline. Volume down setup. Volume down setup.
Okay, so let's check this trade. Let's see what it was first. So it was a trend line break too. Okay, so we're not gonna spend much time on it, but it's very similar to volume tipping trade. So let's continue.
Volume. Congestion. Volume up. Volume down setup. 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 Flag down setup. Trend. Flag down setup. Volume down setup. Volume down setup. Trendline breakdown setup. Trendline breakup setup. Flag down. Trendline breakup setup. volume up, volume down setup. Volume up set, volume up setup. Trendline breakdown, volume down setup. Trendline breakdown set, volume down setup. Volume up setup, volume down, volume down setup. Trendline breakup setup.
Okay, so let's check this trade. I think this was the volume trade that I wanted to show you. No, this was a trend line break again. Um, so let's continue. I think there was another trade.
Volume down, trendline breakdown setup. Volume down setup. Trendline breakdown setup. Trendline volume up setup. Trend volume down, volume up setup. Flag up setup, volume up setup.
Okay, so there was no trade, but let me double check something. I think just because there is a many, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna deselect trend line break, and well, let me just so I'm gonna deselect trend line break, and I'm going to deselect flag, and I'm going to run it again, and I hope I will tell you, I'll be able to show you where it happens, where the trade happens. So let me, because those are similar, but they're a little bit different, and maybe there's order of operation going on. If you select trend line, then if there is a trend line break, it takes that trade first. But if setups are similar, so it's gonna skip volume trade altogether. But I was gonna show that to you, so let me mute it.
Trend line, volume up setup.
So, and as you notice, this I disabled time filter, so it's probably not going to be accurate. But for the sake of the setup, I wanted to show you. Let's see what we have here. I think it happened so fast that it wasn't able to print. But it was probably a trend line break. Let's continue. Well, actually no. So we didn't select trend line. So this was a VT volume trade, and the idea behind volume trade, as I was able to put it in a documentation, is it's a chop. Basically, volume chop. When you think about it, what happens on this candle with a signal bar? We expect price to continue go down, but it obviously didn't. And same thing here. It we had a volume down again, but price refused to go down. So, and what happens next? We have an opposite bar, opposite signal with compound. Um, don't think about it, just happens to be that we have a trendline break here. But the idea behind this is that it's a 3-signal formation. In congestion, here you have minimum congestion bars. Well, no, I'm sorry, volume. So here are the volumes. That's for indicator. This is VD, stands for volume tipping max distance. It means the distance between this bar close and this bar close. So it's a chop. It's looking for a chop. We're looking for a long position. We're looking for a short signal first and then reversal compounded. So we're saying here the volume tipping max distance should be max 20 points, and volume look back period is 13 bars. So here it was only 2 bars, but it's extended to 3. So let's see if we'll have one more.
Flag volume down setup.
Sorry about that.
Volume trend volume up setup. Volume down setup. Trend line volume up setup.
So this also happened on the trend line break, but it wasn't trend line because this setup can happen not on a trend line as well. So if we look at our logs, um, I'll have to fix that, but that's since there is no congestion here, so it'll be a volume tipping setup, and that's the setup. We have a short signal down followed by signal up, and close is above open of this bar, and this is the compound.
Volume up setup. Volume down setup. Bearish volume up. Trend line volume down setup. Trend line volume down setup.
And this shade, let's see if it's printed on. Seems like a congestion trade, but unfortunately it doesn't give logs for congestion or VT trade, but I'll update that soon. So this was, see, it could be trend line break, it could be VT volume trade, or it could be congestion. So it was a powerful signal too.
Volume down setup. 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 Flag down setup. Trend line flag down setup. Volume down setup. Volume down setup. Trend line breakdown setup. Trend line breakup setup. Flag down trend line breakup setup. Volume up, volume down setup. Volume up, volume up setup. Trend line breakdown set. Volume down setup. Trendline breakdown setup. Volume down setup. Volume up setup. Volume down setup. Trendline breakup setup.
So, and I think if you remember that when we selected trendline break, it took this trade and it marked it as trendline break because it is uh, very similar to volume trendline break, only except the trendline break. And this time it took VT trade but didn't print logs for VT. So that's how we know it was a VT trade. And we have a down signal here, and we have reversal signal here, and it's compound. So it took that trade. And so I think that was enough. Um, let's see what we also can do. Let's see if we try to run some historical data. Let's see, for example, we have 5 days, and so here's what's interesting. So with only two selected, CB and VT selected, we have, let's say, we have 60 trades and 63%. Okay. If we select all of the trades, um, we have a little bit more trades, but by adding those two trades, it didn't change it significantly. So let's say if we can have this flag trading. Yeah, the flag trading currently is underperforming just because of the nature of those flags. Oh, here's what I also wanted to show you is that these lines, they are divergence lines, and it says bearish divergence. There is no signal for that, it's just market conditions that tells you that. You're also able to see market divergence uh, in your higher time frames. Like let's see here. See, this was a 15-minute time frame. See how big of a drop. It was a really significant divergence there. What about the 5-minute? There was no 5-minute divergence. I mean, there was no divergence there. Also, when I trade, I look at the signals on higher time frame. Like this is 15 minute, this 15 minute. So if you happen to see this arrows on 15 minute, you want to start looking at uh, short signals, maybe any short signals. Like if you're using discretionary trading, just find any good solid opportunity to go short when you have these bars, when you have this printed. Same on 5-minute. Uh, let's see what else. So that's the congestion volume. This is threshold loan only suitable for trendline break and for algo trading. So that was it. What I wanted to show you, it's we are on the current version is 5.0, and I will include the strategy templates, I decided to select trade only these two, because if you look, and this is actually the real settings that I'm using. So if we take a look, we have 60, 63%, and by adding more, you're not really adding much. But let's say if we are deselect this and we use trendline break. Remember, we used to have 60 and 63, but this is twice less for the same amount of money. So that's why it's trend line break goes first in the order of operations. But yeah, you could use these two. I chose to use these two, but yeah, probably flag needs to be a little bit more refinement, but that's coming. I just put it up there. So yeah, we're still having a current sale where it's 40% off. So go ahead and try it out. We have a free trial. Thanks for watching.